Desperately Seeking Catwoman. Gotham City 2003. It was a typical July summer in Gotham City, hot and nasty. Well, things were about to get hot for Benjamin McGonagall, Gotham PD's top detective. He always has a reputation of getting his man or his woman. But the case that he's been working on, a missing statuette, a Venus statue carved in ivory, has been stolen on its way to Gotham City for an art exhibit. Well, he has a lot of clues and a lot of leads, and he has an informant. Someone mysteriously called him, saying to meet him at the Tower Restaurant. The Tower Restaurant is located in an amusement tower, Gotham City's answer to the Eiffel Tower. It's taller than the Eiffel Tower at 1,400 feet. At its base is a shopping center where you have your typical fare of stores and movie theaters. At the mid-level, where the base ends and the tower is beginning, is the Tower Restaurant, a luxurious 5-star restaurant with a strict dress code, business attire during the day, black tie at night. Well, inside that restaurant was Ben McGonagall. He was meeting an informant. Someone had information on the missing statuette and wanted to meet him at 11 a.m. at the Tower Restaurant. McGonagall was there at his table waiting. Then the informant shows up. He was a Asian fella in his mid-30s. His name was Larson Tam. Tam introduces himself. Detective McGonagall? My name is Larson Tam. I know you by your reputation. You don't know me. But I am a very concerned citizen, he says. Well, the two men shake hands and sit down, and McGonagall asks Tam the million-dollar question. So, Mr. Tam, what made you contact me? Tam looks around nervously to see if he was followed or there's anybody around that he knows, and then he says in a quiet but loud enough voice and says, Detective McGonagall, I have information on that missing statuette. I work for the parties responsible for its theft. McGonagall's shocked and says, So, Mr. Tam, you're telling me you work for the people who stole the statue? Tam said, Yes, I do. I'm not a criminal, but I work for the people who paid Catwoman to steal it. McGonagall says, Mr. Tam, I'm glad you came to me. Tell me what you know. But before Tam could say anything, suddenly the restaurant grew dark and a man comes out to the stage at the far end of the restaurant and he says, Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to introduce this morning's entertainment for you all. This is a young woman straight from France. Please give a round of applause for Madame Peppina and her butterflies. And the restaurant erupted in a small applause. Then the young woman comes out to the stage and begins whistling as all manner of colored lights shine on her. And suddenly there was butterflies flying everywhere, but these were not real butterflies. These were fake butterflies on fishing string. Even McGonagall could see one of the men clad completely in black in the darker ends of the restaurant with a giant fishing rod controlling one such butterfly. Then Tam says to McGonagall, Well, McGonagall, that's definitely a beautiful woman. I'd like to add that butterfly to my collection. Then McGonagall says to Tam, All right, Tam, there's no time. Please tell me, who paid Catwoman to rob the statuette? While Tam was going to reveal who stole the statuette, suddenly a dark yet familiar figure comes walking in through the exit. She goes up to one of the butterfly operators, the one that McGonagall had noticed. The man did a whispering argument with her, but this figure hit the man, knocking him out cold. Then the darkened female figure pulls out her own specialized fishing rod with its own personalized butterfly and starts swinging it around rapidly. Just as Tam was about to reveal who paid Catwoman to steal the statuette, suddenly the butterfly that was swinging wildly embeds itself in the throat of Tam. Tam clutches his throat and lets out a squeal. Then his face hits the plate, and the people around gasp with shock. And they run around him. McGonagall noticed the direction that wild butterfly came from, and he sees the shadowy assailant running for the exit. McGonagall gets up and says to the stunned crowd, there was a fly in his soup, and he runs towards the exit, chasing after the assailant. And a chase ensued as the assailant, running out onto the platform, is revealed to be none other than Catwoman. And she runs up the large stairwell heading up the tower, and McGonagall runs close behind her, shooting at her and missing. As the chase continued upwards, McGonagall kept running up the stairs until Catwoman surprised him with her whip. The whip wrapped around McGonagall's leg, and then she jerked the whip, almost sending McGonagall over the rails to his death, but he quickly caught himself. Catwoman quickly undoes the whip and runs back up the stairs, wrapping the whip around her waist. McGonagall climbs back to safety, regaining his composure and continuing the chase after her. As they were getting higher and higher, both could hear the wind as they were climbing high in altitude up the tower. Catwoman climbs over the safety railing of the stairs and heads over to the very ledge of the tower, and then she leaps. But Catwoman had a parachute on her back, and she quickly pulls the ripcord, and a purple and green parachute deploys. McGonagall sees her great escape, and he says to himself aloud, well, I'll be. Then he runs back down the stairs, but by the time he would get back downstairs, it would be too late. She'd be gone. So he knew of one risky way of getting down quick. He waited for an elevator that was coming down. As the elevator was coming down, he quickly gets on the railing, and as the elevator whizzes past him, he leaps off and lands on the roof of the elevator. He rides the elevator down and makes his way down quickly to the base of the tower. Well, as he runs, he looks for a vehicle, and he sees a vehicle. He sees a taxi cab, and the driver was sitting on a park bench having his lunch. McGonagall quickly runs into the cab, and lucky him, the keys were still in the ignition. He starts up the engine as the cab driver runs screaming, Hey, what are you doing with my cab? McGonagall screams, Police business! Then he puts the taxi in reverse, speeds it back, and then puts it on forward and speeds off. Driving the commandeered cab, McGonagall lowers his head to look out the front windshield to see if he still had Catwoman in his sights, and he did, as she was slowly descending down into the city. And at the same time, he was weaving in and out of traffic, saying to himself out loud, Damn it, I wish I had a siren. During the pursuit, McGonagall nearly caused several traffic accidents, but the chase was finally over. He reaches the Spring Bridge that crossed over the Spring River, the river that separated uptown and midtown Gotham, and he sees Catwoman landing on top of a party barge. McGonagall timed his jump right, and he jumps off the Spring Bridge onto the barge, but the party barge's roof was tarp, and McGonagall tore right through the roof, literally crashing a wedding, landing on the cake. The bride was crying, the groom was angry, and the angry chefs grabbed McGonagall and dragged them away. McGonagall looked out the window as Catwoman jumped in the water and swam for it. Later, at the GCPD headquarters, Commissioner Gordon was screaming at McGonagall. Damn it, McGonagall, damn it! The one lead we had and he's dead! How did Catwoman kill him? McGonagall calmly replies to the commissioner saying, well, sir, that little butterfly prop thing had a razor blade on the bottom of it, and it cut Tam's jugular. By the time the paramedics arrived up there was nothing they could do for him. And as for Catwoman, well, she's always been a resourceful criminal, but she's going to screw up, and when she does, I'm going to get her. 2 nights later, a gray Ford sedan pulls up quietly to a well-known nightclub called the My Alibi, a seedy strip club where if you want information, you can get it if the price is right. And McGonagall was going there to look for an on-again, off-again member of Catwoman's gang, a man by the name of Efren Salgado. If he knows what Catwoman's up to, he's the one that was going to know. Well, as McGonagall pulls up to the door of the nightclub, he notices something. There was no bouncer at the door, no one to take the cover charge. He thought it strange. So McGonagall goes in to the nightclub as the music was blaring loud like any nightclub. As McGonagall goes in there, he sees that there were broken tables, broken chairs, broken drinking glasses, and broken men. It looked like there was a violent fight that went on in there, a brawl, but it was not caused by those guys getting drunk and fighting each other. McGonagall knew it was caused probably by 2 guys that would do such a thing. McGonagall goes up to one of the guys and he asks him, alright buddy, I'm with the police, as he flashes his badge. I want to know what went on in here. The guy says, oh God, Batman and his little bitch Robin, they were in here. They were looking for Salgado. We tried to stop him, but damn, those 2 know how to fight. And then McGonagall says, okay, buddy, unless you want to spend the night in jail, where did Salgado go? The man's like, man, they hit me on the head pretty hard. I think they took Salgado out to the back alley to ask him questions. So McGonagall runs over to the back exit, and sure enough, as he steps out, he sees the Batmobile start up its engines and take off. After the Batmobile spat out of the back alley, McGonagall hears him moaning. He turns around, and on the ground by the back door was Salgado, badly beaten. And McGonagall goes over to him, picks him up by the shirt collar, and points his Glock 19 to his face, and he says to Salgado, you better tell me what I want to know, or I'm going to finish what Batman started. Salgado says with a stutter, okay, I'll talk. I'm telling you the same thing I told Batman, that Catwoman is going to meet Tyson Geller on the roof of the Clearview building at 10 o'clock to exchange the statuette for money. Then McGonagall asks Salgado, okay, how much is she getting for stealing that statuette? Salgado's like, 1 million, I think. Maybe 2. Please, that's all I know. Just let me go, said Salgado. And then McGonagall lets him go, and Salgado slides back down onto the pavement. He leaves the back alley, and he gets into his sedan, and he grabs the radio and says into the radio, dispatch, this is Detective Benjamin McGonagall requesting backup at the Clearview building. Repeat, this is Benjamin McGonagall requesting backup at the Clearview building on 8th and 12th. And I'm also requesting an ambulance for several injured men at the My Alibi strip club. Repeat, I'm also requesting an ambulance for several injured men at the My Alibi strip club on Concord and Snyder Street. Then McGonagall puts out on the roof the red rotating police light, starts up the car and starts up the siren, and speeds off to stop the exchange between Catwoman and Geller. As McGonagall was hurrying to the exchange, it all had made sense to him as he said to himself aloud in the car, "That's it, it all makes sense. Of course, Tyson Geller, the famed art dealer and art collector, he would pay Catwoman to steal that priceless statuette, and he's probably going to try to sell it on the black market for a lot of money. Oh no, Geller," he says, "oh no, you're not getting away with this either." Finally, McGonagall arrives at the Clairview Tower, another typical skyscraper in Gotham City. When he arrives there, he sees Sergeant Shives of the GCPD. He was there with several police officers, and he says, "McGonagall, we responded to your call for backup. What's going on?" McGonagall informs Shives on what's going on, and McGonagall with the rest of the officers start going through the lobby of the Clairview Towers and going up the stairwell to the roof. As soon as they got close to the roof, they could hear the sound of gunfire and men screaming. Well, McGonagall quickly kicks down the door of the roof access. McGonagall and several of the police officers run out with their guns pointing, screaming, "Freeze! Police! Don't move!" They could see that there was a big brawl going on the rooftop. There was a helicopter getting ready to take off, and Batman and Robin taking on a mix of Catwoman's gang and Geller's hired muscles. Well, after shouting the freeze command, everyone stopped fighting. The helicopter was beginning to take off, and McGonagall could see that Tyson Geller and the pilot and Catwoman were in the helicopter that was taking off. But then, all of a sudden, McGonagall ran to the helicopter was taking off, and he gave a Hail Mary leap and grabbed onto the right skid of the helicopter. The helicopter was flying towards the bridge of the Aparo Expressway when the pilot says to Geller, "Something's wrong. I think we got someone hanging off one of the skids." Then Catwoman looks out to her side and she says, "There's nothing here. This side is clear." Then Geller looks out his side and he sees McGonagall hanging off the helicopter skid, trying to reach for his gun. And he says to the pilot, "Oh, looks like we got one of the detectives hanging off the helicopter skid. Don't worry, I'll take care of this one myself." Then Geller opens the door and a wind comes blasting into the cockpit. The middle-aged Geller pulls his gun and points it at McGonagall. But McGonagall quickly pulls out his gun and takes a shot and hits Geller. The impact of the bullet caused Geller to go flying back, and he flies back hitting the pilot of the helicopter, causing him to lose control of the helicopter, and the helicopter began spinning out of control, heading for the Aparo Expressway bridge. McGonagall was forced to drop his gun and hang on with both hands to dear life as the helicopter was weaving and whirling about out of control, heading right for the Aparo Expressway bridge on a crash course. McGonagall says in his mind, "Oh dear God, help me, I can't fall to my death." Finally, as they got close enough to the bridge, McGonagall let go and he was able to grab onto an antenna on the center pillar of the bridge, and he hung on to dear life as he witnessed the helicopter crash into the bridge and explode. As McGonagall held on tightly, he could see the flaming wreckage of the helicopter crash into the darkened waters of Miller's Harbor below. Days later, the statuette was recovered unharmed due to the fact that it was placed in a titanium protective briefcase and it survived the explosion and crashed into the water. And the bodies of Geller and the helicopter pilot were recovered, but there was no body for Catwoman. They assumed that she was dead, but several people knew better. As for the people that were rounded up on the roof, they all were arrested, except for Batman and Robin, and according to Shive's report, Batman and Robin dropped a smoke pellet and vanished. As for McGonagall, of course McGonagall got recognition for retrieving the stolen statuette, but he had enough. The next day, he goes into the commissioner's office and tenders his resignation. He turns in his badge and his replacement gun, and he says to Commissioner Gordon, "Well, Commissioner, it was a fun 15 years, but I need change. I'm tired of Gotham City. I'm tired of shenanigans from vigilantes that you purposely turn a blind eye to, and I'm tired of all these weird criminals in costumes pulling off high-stake crimes." McGonagall says to the Commissioner, "I'm moving to Florida with my family. I'm going to become a PI down there. It's a lot easier and a lot slow-paced down there." And then he says to the Commissioner, "Well, Jim, I'm going to say this. In the brief time that I served under your commissionership, it was an honor. It was nice for once to work with a clean, honest cop who is now running a clean, honest department that he helped clean up and straighten up. And I just wish I could work with you a lot longer. But like I said, it's time for change and I'm tired." Then Commissioner Gordon says, "Well, Benjamin, it was nice working with you for 15 years. And it was nice having you work under me. You were my best detective. I just hate to see you go, god damn it. But hey, I understand." And then he extends his hand and Benjamin McGonagall shakes his hand. Eventually, Benjamin McGonagall packs his things and moves with his family down to Florida, and he becomes a very well-known and very well-respected private investigator down there. And that was the last that anyone's seen or heard of McGonagall. Like and subscribe. The end.